Hello, Mr. Chris
Hi.
Karen.
Yes, hi, Chris here.
Hi, thank you so
Apologies.
much. No, we're just ready for you right at this moment. So let me
Oh,
just
good.
introduce you. My name is Gilad Gressel. I'm just going to introduce you for the session. We're now going to begin our session with Mr. Chris Karen, who is the CEO of Turnitin. He's going to present his talk, which is Data Privacy and Security in Global Education Technology. Mr. Karen joined Turnitin in 2009 as Chief Executive Officer. There, Chris led the transition of Turnitin from a company focused on plagiarism prevention to one that provides solutions that promote academic integrity, streamline grading and feedback, and improve outcomes across educational levels and content areas. Mr. Karen previously worked for Microsoft Corporation as GM of Microsoft Business Solutions. He holds an MBA with distinction from Kellogg School of Management and a Bachelor of Science in Engineering from Stanford University. And I just want to say personally, Mr. Karen, I am a big user of your software. I love Turnitin. I use it with my students all the time, and without it, we couldn't train our students as well to understand what it means to do academic integrity and to have high quality writing. So deepest thanks from me, and please go ahead and take over, and you can now present.
All right, very much. Thank you. All right, is my screen showing up okay to you all?
Yes, we can
It
see
is great.
your slides.
Okay, great to be here, and thanks for taking the time to get our experiences about data security, data privacy in the modern world of where we are, which is changing at a rapid pace, meaning cybersecurity was an afterthought for me when I joined the company 12 years ago, and now it's probably the thing I worry about most for our company and for peer companies of mine. Is a bit of a follow-on to the introduction. Turnitin, we've been around for 20 years, and we started out as the solution to help make sure student writing and research writing has high integrity, is not plagiarized intentionally or unintentionally. And we've become quite global since then, 20 years ago. We are now
Excuse me,
probably the
Mr. Karen.
largest.
Just
Yes.
one request. Sorry, do you mind going into presentation mode, the slideshow mode, so we'll have a full
Oh, I'm
screen of the
sorry.
slides?
Yes, do that for sure. 1 second here.
Perfect. Thank
How's
you so
that?
much. That's
Yeah, no
perfect. Thank
problem.
you.
Great. Yeah, our mission is to ensure the integrity of global education. And integrity started out as integrity of student writing and researcher manuscripts. It's grown to include other forms of integrity, making sure there's not collusion on testing in higher education or high school, to ensure if a test is taken remotely, whether it's an exam to be a doctor or a lawyer, that the identification of the test taker matches the person we're trying to certify, and to monitor testing via things like remote proctoring to make sure that there's no integrity issues in the actual test taking environment. So we broadened from written work to more forms of integrity in research and in education. And we're trying to as well play a broader role in the assessment process, in helping teachers and educators give students feedback on their work and grade their work in our platform. And by doing so, we are able to generate a lot of data around student progress, what concepts the class is needing to be retaught, what subset of students might have to be remediated because they're missing a certain concept. And the goal is us to play a role in integrity assessment, then to use data on student performance to actually help educators be more effective in improving student outcomes. The company, as I mentioned, started back in 1998 by 4 grad students at UC Berkeley. We've grown a lot since then. We're now over 1,000 employees, very global. We have over 40 million students that we touch, which is probably the largest footprint globally of an education technology provider in existence. So a lot of growth since then. 16,000 institutions. We have a very large presence in South Asia as well. Quite a global company. You can see here we have offices around the world, including many in EMEA, in the US, South America. Integrity in research, integrity in student writing is a global shared best practice. We've tried to be as much as possible global in our reach, whether the work is in in English, is in a foreign language around the world. We serve 15,000 institutions globally. A big part of us helping to have educators grade and give feedback to students online is reduce their time of marking to let them have more time with students and with teaching. We serve most of the high impact STEM journals, scientific journals around the world, like New England Journal of Medicine, Science and Nature, because integrity of research is also an issue. We have many papers in our database that students have written and submitted. We have many licensed journal articles that are present and historical. So we have a data asset that's critical to our value proposition. And so cybersecurity is very important. We worry a lot about protecting student information, student grades, student images of their face for ID verification. We also need to protect the journal content we've licensed and the student papers that have been submitted, because that powers our value proposition. So as we've grown in scale, protecting the integrity of student information and also the content we've been able to grow over the years has become very important. We serve high school learners, we serve universities and colleges around the world. We serve professional certifications to be certified as a medical professional, an engineer, a lawyer, and we also serve the research market. So security has become very paramount to us as a company. As a case in point, this is a very busy slide, I understand, but we have a third party come in every year to look at our business, and we're a multi-billion-dollar company at this point, and basically look at the risks to our company. Risks could be competitive entry of a company like Google. It could be an earthquake. It could be a new product offering not being successful. And they ranked every sort of potential risk according to impact, like how detrimental would it be to the business if we have a problem, and also likelihood on the x-axis. And green means low impact, low likelihood. Red is right is the worst, right? High likelihood and also very high impact to our business. And the categories are strategic, on the right side, strategic types of risks, operational risks, compliance risks, and financial risks. And I've whited out most of the data for security reasons and confidentiality reasons, but you can see that I did not white out the top risk to our company, which is cybersecurity. So that's risk J. It's the highest in impact to our company, the most damaging, and also it's not very likely, but it's possible. So if people ask me what keeps me up at night running this company 12 years in to my job as CEO, it's cybersecurity. It's the risk of data being leaked. It's the risk of someone breaking in and shutting down our services. So students can't turn in their work. So educators can't grade and mark. That is the biggest risk to our company. And the reason I was anxious to accept the invitation and join this conference. I have a good friend who recently took over as head of technology and head of product at a very successful HR software company called Kronos. They're one of the leaders in managing HR functions for companies around the world. They had a bad actor penetrate their systems, lock down their ability to have their customers perform HR activities like meet payroll, be available for recording time worked. Effectively, the company was shut down temporarily by these hackers. This is like a $10+ billion market cap company that was at a standstill just over the Christmas holidays by a ransomware attack. And basically, the bad actors demanded that a lot of money be paid to them to have access to their core application to return to them. So it's very real to a good friend of mine who runs technology for a very large company. I can say again, I'm on the board of directors of a company, one of the largest education technology companies in the US K-12 system, and a very similar thing happened to them only 2 weeks ago. So this idea of bad actors penetrating your core application, if you're a software company, shutting you down and demanding millions of dollars to have you back and running is a very, it was something that was conceptual 5 years ago. Now it's unfortunately very common. And I want to talk about some of the things we're doing to make sure that that same bad event does not hit us. but I can't stress the importance of how common it's become for companies like mine, and how much of a risk we need to lean into to make sure it doesn't occur for us. So we think about security. What do we think about? We think about vulnerabilities in our company, technology vulnerabilities in our applications and in applications we manage. So for those of you that don't work for technology companies, you have technology that helps power your operation. You have financial systems, you have CRM systems. All those are potentially vulnerable to attack and to really impacting your data security and your operations. So there's application security for financial applications, CRM applications, many others, email applications. Compliance is critical. There's sort of published best practices to have tight cybersecurity that in our case, in many cases, our customers demand we are certified by to be seen as a safe provider. There's network security that could be opened up by lost passwords, stolen laptops that we have to manage. There's being able to invariably identify an intrusion quickly and respond quickly. Because as much as you work to be airtight, bad things do happen. So being able to figure out a bad things happen quickly and remediate it is also critical. We think a lot about access management, minimizing how many people have access to core systems, making identity verification like two-factor a core part of any high stakes system. Two-factor mean things like password and SMS or second device verification. We think about a security awareness, educating our employees on the kinds of vulnerabilities that perpetrators try to take advantage of, and where to spot, whether it's someone sneaking into the office, whether it's someone looking over your shoulder when you're entering your password at a coffee shop, or making sure your device is secure when you're putting it in your car or in your home. Third-party security is also important. We had a bad incident happen to us personally in the last year where a service we licensed to help pay bills electronically was accessed by a bad actor, and that bad actor was able, through this application that we licensed, to actually author emails to my employees to look like they were from me, that told employees to wire large amounts of money out of the country to pay for an acquisition. We fortunately caught it in time, but it was very close to being a situation where through a third-party system, someone had our company, with no authorization from me, pay out $2 million to Chinese bank accounts. So it was very close to us, again, through third-party security. Physical access control is just, devices, office, etc. But this scope of security is what we manage here at Turnitin. Some of the key risks that are surprisingly advanced are social engineering, convincing you to release a password or download or click a link in an email to download malicious software, to get credentials leaked through a phishing expedition on email that has you enter your credentials in a you think it's a legitimate way, but actually to a bad actor. Non-updated browsers or simple passwords is also a huge issue. The most common attack vector that we're trying to manage our employees through education to avoid, and other things as well, including in-office breach to machines that have sensitive data or have saved passwords into core systems for us. So we do a lot of things beyond having senior people in our company that manage security and data privacy. We do security awareness training annually to all our employees through videos. We onboard new employees to our company to train them on product and on values, but also have a security onboarding session to let them know how important security is, what good security looks like, and key risks to make sure they are on the lookout for. We also simulate phishing exercises. Our head of security will actually email to our employees once a month, once a quarter, example phishing emails to see who falls for it, and to educate the company on how well this works and how on guard you have to be to make sure you don't fall victim. So as an example, this is an email he sent out in 2019 with a picture of our company refrigerator and saying, we've had food stolen by other employees. So to make sure it doesn't happen in the future, we have a camera in the fridge. So if someone steals someone else's lunch, it'll be recorded who's doing it. And the tempting link was, if you want to see a live stream of the fridge, click here. this is an obvious phishing email, because if you look at, for example, the email address, it's not from our company, it's from a different domain. There's spelling errors in it that are intentional. It's written to be an email that looks tempting to click the link on, but if you look at it carefully, it's not from an employee and it's not from someone you would know. But it's trying to train us that it's easy to fall in the trap of phishing. And we looked at what happened, and actually almost 20% of employees clicked the link when they shouldn't have. They should have seen it as a malicious email. Those 20% of employees could have downloaded then malicious software that could steal their passwords, access systems, etc. So it's a big issue. We use this kind of real world training to train employees that examine every email very carefully before you open it, and certainly before you click a link. We look a lot at perimeter compromise, people coming in from the outside to do bad harm. So the biggest thing we do beyond having firewalls that are modern and up to date is we hire a firm, a third party, to basically continually try to break into our network. So they're sort of former hackers, but they're on the good side of the law now, and their job is to try to break into our systems, steal passwords, steal data, and when they find a vulnerability, let us know about it. So we have a third party all the time trying to break into our network, and when they are able to, let us know about it so we can get there first and fix the vulnerability before a bad actor gets in. Third-party software, I mentioned before, the latest issue for us, we almost emailed or wired $2 million out to China, was a risk introduced by a third-party software application with a vulnerability. So we have to also have our security team analyze and do security checks on any third-party application we license for our service, because that's a common way people try to break in. We do, like I said, a lot of things around employee education, intelligent badging. We have different access levels into our data centers and places where there's sensitive equipment like laptops. Physical access or threats is still one of the most common ways data is leaked, like passwords. So laptops are secured and are wipeable remotely. We limit very much how much customer data can be stored on passwords and mobile devices. We also very much limit how many employees have access to our core systems, so that those that have passwords to our crown jewels, that number is very, very small. And the people that have access are extremely well trained in cybersecurity, threat mitigation, and social tactics to steal passwords. Our customers, our universities, our high schools, they want us to be compliant to something called SOC 2, which is a standard level of security that you can document processes for to show you have and retest on a regular basis. We also have data privacy issues because we're a global company, and things like student data, student grades oftentimes need to be very highly encrypted, and in some cases not brought back to servers in the US, but resided outside the US. So we have a lot of things on the data privacy side as well, just to be compliant with our customers, we focus on as well. So like I said, cybersecurity is, in summary, is a growing area of focus for me and our team. It was recently, 3 years ago, we hired a full data protection officer and a full-time security officer, CISO. We have a large team, much larger than in the past, to be full-time focused on operations security. Things like GDPR compliance for data privacy, SOC 2 for security as well are more and more things customers demand of us, universities, high schools, journals, etc. So we've invested a tremendous amount, but like I said at the start, it's become kind of a out of mind for me when I joined 12 years ago to our top issue. And I mentioned before, 2 companies close to home that actually had attacks and were shut down for a number of days and had to pay millions of dollars in ransom to get their passwords and their data back. There's a third company. I'm a good friend of a CEO of a company that's not in software, but he had a bad actor access his financial systems and lock those up. So he couldn't bill, couldn't collect money, couldn't do payroll. He in the end had to also pay over $1 million to bad actors to get access back to his financial system. So it's a risk for all companies and all industries, not just software companies. So with that, I will wrap my talk and open it up for questions and stop sharing.
Okay, wow, a lot of information. Thank you so much. So our first question is about, I think I have to preface it a little bit. It's sort of well known, or I think maybe it's well known, that a lot of vulnerabilities come from new products, new features, new, we want to constantly evolve, get to market, make the next thing. And there's always a tension between the security team and the product team, which is saying, well, we got to get to market. We have to meet our deadline. And then the security team is saying, no, you're not secure yet, or it's not ready yet, or I'm not sure about X, Y, Z. And so the question is, have you felt that tension in your role? And also, have you ever decided not to release or pursue a new product, or even pursue a new product or features in the interest of security? Has that conversation been happening for you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like I mentioned back 10 years ago when I was early days of the company, it was more the question about speed to ship new products versus moving too fast was mostly around quality. Like the issue then was, are you shipping things that have bugs in them? So yes, it works, but it's really buggy and the customer experience will be poor. That's evolved to the question to be a quality of code and security of code. So we don't ship new features, new releases until quality assurance signs off on the module or update, as well as our security team. So it slows things down somewhat, but it's just better business for us and more importantly for our customers. So now there's a double checkpoint of quality assurance. I have to sign off before you ship, and same for security. An example of where we blew it, and it was widely in the press about 6 months ago. So one of the things we're used for is for all aspiring lawyers to take a bar exam in the US and in Philippines to become licensed attorneys. And so they're taking a multi-hour test on their machines. And we, in that case, we had a quality issue where there was security was preserved for test takers because we're recording them taking a test from their home, but the software kept crashing. And that was an example of pushing too fast to get a new release out and sacrificing, in this case, not security, but quality. So it's still an issue for us. We're still working to get that right balance, but that's how we manage it today. Nothing ships till we have a green light QA and also from the security team.
Okay. We have with us Dr. Krishnashree also on the call. I think she wants to ask a question.
Hello, Chris. Thank you for that.
Oh, great.
Thank you for the great talk. My question is actually on plagiarism itself.
Yeah.
We've actually seen a lot of image manipulations in publications, you know, and them being reported. I want to know if there's something that anybody is doing in the industry towards image plagiarisms and or manipulations. Is there a way to detect it? I understand it may be a difficult task, but in time, like, we need to be able to build something towards that. What are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, it's a very relevant and timely question. So historically, we work with journals to look for plagiarism in the written work, where it's either self-plagiarism or research stolen from somebody else. The two emerging needs we're hearing from publishers, one is image manipulation, where you know it could be a petri dish where the what's actually happening is manipulated to provide the evidence that the researcher wants, when in fact that didn't actually occur. The other is actually research, because some academics get tenure or promoted for volume of research. There's actually also research being written by artificial intelligence, so it's not actually being written by a researcher, it's produced by a computer. It happens in social media for political statements, but it's happening in research as well. So we're working on both. The good news on image manipulation is there's a lot of great work being done to detect fabricated photographs and things like social media, what's called deep fake, where you have a picture of President Obama or a video of him saying something he never said, or on a body that's not his. And so there's a lot of dollars being spent there. And we're looking to partner with those companies to bring it into the world of scientific publishing to apply it to use cases related to research. So it's an area of active investigation by us, I'll say, and prototyping, as is the second problem, detecting research that's not written by a human but fabricated by a computer. My expectation is we'll have something in the market in the next 12 to 18 months for publishers to use, because it's a growing issue, this image manipulation. But again, we can leverage the work others are doing to look at manipulation of celebrity photographs or other things that show up in social media. So we can ride on the coattails of other companies looking at this.
You talked
Another
about
question. Oh,
yeah, go ahead,
go ahead,
Aman.
Dr. Shashri.
No, I really was interested in the ransomware, mention that you had made in your talk. Have you personally, like, had to deal with ransomware at Turnitin at all? And what were the best ways that you felt, are points for other companies to be able to take back with them on dealing with this, because this is becoming a bigger and bigger issue every year? Yeah,
it's certainly growing in prevalence dramatically. We have not so far, fortunately, experienced ransomware. We have social engineering to try to have false wire transfers, as I mentioned, leave our company, and we almost lost $2 million. And these are very senior executives who work for me who got tricked into authorizing the wires. We caught them at the last minute, but barely. Ransomware, fortunately not. But like I said, I'm on the board of one company in education that they're in the middle of it right now. Their application is shut down and they need to pay a large sum to get money back. The article I showed of the Ultimate Kronos Group, that happened about a month ago. And then the gentleman I mentioned, he runs a crane rental company that had his ransomware on his financial data. That was about a year ago. In all three cases, these companies tried to solve it technically and not pay the money. And in all three cases, they had to pay the money to get their credentials back because the cost of being offline was just too high. So unfortunately, it's pretty effective. Like the data points I see say if someone's able to go in and block access to your system, your ability to get around that is low. And in many cases, you're forced to pay the ransom. But for us, fortunately, nothing's happened to our company.
Thank you. I have one more question for you.
Sure.
Are you seeing better trends in adoption of anti-plagiarism by developing nations, especially in Asia?
Yeah, very much so. So when I joined the company, we had almost no presence we had a large presence in Australia, New Zealand, but very little presence in anywhere else in Asia. Now we have, I want to think, well, what's the best way to describe it? Millions of students under license in India, as an example. We have a national deal in Pakistan for all research and a lot of graduate work. Same in Turkey. We have millions of students in Japan, in Southeast Asia. We're talking to the Taiwanese government about a national deal to have our system available to all universities in Taiwan. So it's grown exponentially, with the exception of China. China has been a challenge. For whatever reason, it's more of an accepted practice, plagiarizing others' work. So we've had a trouble in that market getting traction, but everywhere else, particularly South Asia, has grown tremendously, which is important to us because if you look at higher education globally, the traditional markets we started in, like the US, enrollments are flat, if not declining, as less children are being born or going to college. But globally, the higher ed enrollment is supposed to double in the next 10 years. But all that doubling is in Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, China. So for us to keep increasing our impact, we have to reach more students, which means really being successful in partnering with universities in South Asia, Southeast Asia, and North Asia, and made a ton of progress in the years that have come. We found countries typically try to start by focusing on integrity of research from their faculty, because that lets the researchers publish in high impact factor journals, which means their notoriety as researchers goes up, which means the university ranking goes up. And then once they have a handle on plagiarism and research, tends to go to graduate work, and then finally to undergraduate work. but we've had a lot of success in Asia over the last 10 years.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So the next question is about the exam proctoring. You did mention that Turnitin has started doing that now. The question is specifically, what is required to do it correctly? What are the details? Like, if you can give us any insight on what are the hard points about exam proctoring? I mean, obviously webcam, you're recording them, but
yeah,
what is it that makes it successful or not successful? What are the tricky parts about it?
Yeah, I'd say technically it's not yet a solved problem. And I'll talk more about that. There's really two checks. One is the identification of the identity of the test taker, and that is working fairly well. That's the example of taking a picture on a webcam and then matching it against a picture in the student information system. And we use an Amazon Web Service facial recognition service that does that matching for us, and that works with very high accuracy. When you monitor a student taking a test for an hour, you're looking for things like a second person coming into view, talking to somebody else, looking at a phone, opening a book, those kinds of activities. And what we have is a solution that starts with an AI model, a machine learning model that knows common signals of a problem, like a second face showing into the screen, or a book opening, or the person goes away for a while and comes back. And we use it just to highlight parts of the testing session for a human to focus on. So right now, technology really, it doesn't have the accuracy is not super high. So you couldn't rely on AI to review a test taker for an hour and accurately say there was cheating or there's no cheating. All we can do is take what would have otherwise been an hour review by a remote proctor and say, instead of an hour video, here's 4 minutes. It looked like the potentially problematic 4 minutes, but in the end, we have to rely on the professor, the teacher assistant, or the proctor to figure out whether something is really a problem or not. We have issues with poor lighting that can cause false positives. There are students that have tics, motions they can't control. A lot of students look away when they think. Some are nervous and move their hands a lot, and so these are all kind of false positives that we and others in this space have yet to have technology reach a higher accuracy than humans. There are certain areas where AI is better than humans, like reading an X-ray for breast cancer. I think radiologists now feel like computers are better than often they are diagnosing, for example, cancer in an X-ray. With proctoring, humans are still better, but AI can focus their attention on the moments where there's probably potentially an issue. There's a lot of concern around privacy from students, understandably. They're in their own home. How long is the data stored for? Who gets to see it? All those things can be problematic. So as soon as students can get back in the classroom and take tests there, we're seeing a pretty rapid drop off in demand for remote proctoring. It's not a big part of our business, so we're fine either way, but it's certainly not, it's very useful in certain use cases like online degrees, but where possible, I think in-person examination is a lot better.
Yeah, I think we all agree to that.
Yeah.
But the online degrees are a nice addition to the world that we're all so happy. I mean, Amrita, we just launched our online degree this year, of course, driven by the pandemic, but we're not going to drop it. We like it and our students like it. So it seems like that's the way we're going. So that is part of our interest. One question I personally have, I study machine learning, and I'm quite well aware that AI machine learning has a number of vulnerabilities that are well studied in the academic circles, but are not really solved, in the sense that you can easily manipulate a photo to trick the machine, the AI algorithm. It says it looks like a panda, but now the AI algorithm says, it's an airplane.
Yeah.
Have you had to consider any of these kinds of attacks in Turnitin software? Have you been considering the security of machine learning?
Really good question. Certainly, there's criticism of racial bias in that people of different skin colors, things like ID verification work less well. So you could see a situation where people with darker skin would get accused of having an identification issue more often than those that with different skin colors. Same for lighting as well in the room. we've worked hard to remove any bias in that. I think it'd be easier to fake AI for ID verification than it would for full test monitoring. Because we do both, it's not a real issue. So for us, no, we're more focused on making sure there's not bias in our models. So that if you're wearing a certain headwear, or you have a different skin color, or your lighting's not as good because you're in a poor family, that it doesn't make you have the spotlight on you for a higher chance of misconduct, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the risk is still pretty low on those attacks anyways. People aren't really doing that yet, basically.
Yeah.
We had another question here, which is, as a CEO, what advice do you have for new students wanting to get into security? If you have any advice, what advice would you give?
Well, it's an amazingly, I mean, as far as a marketable field, meaning the demand for people with security skills, it's extremely high. Whenever I talk to a friend of mine's kids who are thinking about what they want to study in college, I always steer them towards engineering or computer science, because it's such a high impact career, and there's so much more demand for those skills than there are supply. But if you double click into that, now I think AI is huge as a desired skill set, but so is cybersecurity and security. I was an engineer in college, and I was a software developer for a few years, but I'm decades past being that technical. So it's hard for me to give advice to someone who's looking to be an expert in cybersecurity. It changes so rapidly. I mean, whatever you learn is not going to be outdated in 18 months. So you kind of have to have a lifelong learning mindset to stay current. But I'm kind of lacking in advice there, other than to say, what
qualities do you look for in, when you had to hire your CISO, at least, what qualities do you look for in a good security person when you were thinking about that?
I think someone that can really fully think through all the things that could go wrong, or the vulnerabilities that could exist. I don't want to say a paranoid person, but someone who's very thorough and thinking things through, and very process oriented, just very thorough and thinking through risks, and very creative in thinking through what could happen, so they're a step ahead of it.
So process oriented, so that even if you don't think about it, so it takes the human element out of it, sort of. It kind of automates it, so that okay, this is what we do in this situation, so you're covering all your bases. Is that what you meant by process oriented?
And also, at least in our industry, and I think more to come, that customers demand you have certain levels of kind of standard security levels. Like for us, it's SOC 2, and SOC 2 is all about process document. You document processes that you train employees on social engineering. You limit access to certain systems. You have two-factor authentication on any new application. So you document steps you've taken, but then you have to make sure they're always implemented. I'd say that it's the equivalent of sort of a financial controller in the world of accounting. It's almost like an accountant mindset applied to technology that makes a great security engineer or cybersecurity lead.
Okay,
it's a huge growth field, because there's going to be more the people on the side of bad, and the tools they have to do more damage than good is going to keep growing. So that it's an arms race that requires great people on the other side, on the side for good, with a lot of talent and experience. So it'll be a huge area of job growth in the years to come.
We've had a number of leaders tell us, security people who've been in the field doing security primarily tell us, it's sad. I feel really bad, but at least now we're finally getting funding, because now there's finally enough attacks that people, like you said, you started off, this wasn't even on the front of your mind, and now it's the thing that keeps you up at night. So in that sense, I think everybody seems to be echoing the same sentiment, that we need more security specialists, and we need more workforce, and people are taking it more seriously now than ever before.
Absolutely.
Our very last question for you is, what are the unique security challenges in working so closely with almost 1,000 universities, each university having a different security posture? A security issue with one has the potential to bubble up to you also. So
we have I think we have tens of thousands of universities as customers, actually, so it's quite large. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the best way to answer this. We often have unique requests for special security measures from universities or special things around data privacy. Because we have a multi-tenant application, whatever offering does, it's the same for everyone. So we do our best to manage to the general need set of our customers around the world, and for better or for worse, need to sort of stop there. So when customers ask for more, if it makes sense for a global population, we'll certainly do the work. But if it's going to serve just the unique needs of them, we have to sometimes say no, just because it doesn't work in our business model where it's a one size fits all service. So far, we've been able to stay ahead of requests. It used to be about accessibility, designing your application so people who are visually impaired or have hearing issues can still use our service. But now it's more and more about data privacy. Then it was data privacy, I'd say, and now it's security. But we like you said, invest a lot of money. But when there's very incredibly hard to satisfy needs, we have to say no for the sake of the expense. But we're always, as a percent of our spend in our company, security always is increasing.
Okay. So with that, I think we can wrap up the talk. Thank you very,
Okay.
very much, Mr. Karen, for telling us all about Turnitin, answering all our questions, and expressing to us how important security has become for your company and all the ways that you'll be going forward with it. I think all our listeners have definitely learned a lot, and hopefully we're all excited to continue our education so that we can be that cyber workforce that is needed. So thank you very much. Really
absolutely
appreciate all your time.
Happy to be a part of it. Thanks for the invitation and best of luck in the rest of the conference.
Thank you.